Did you say you have one lens only? You're in the right place. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thomas Love here from beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, and today we're gonna discuss night photography. I used to teach classes of night photography downtown, but now we're in that period of the year where the sun sets very late, so I cannot possibly start lessons at 11 p.m. So this is why I wanted to put together some examples to see the transitioning of the light from the sunset to night. Here in Vancouver we are very lucky because we have body of waters all around downtown, so that sets a very nice mood for the photos you're willing to take, and also people tend to gather over there, so you have many different subjects if you want to practice your night photography. Rule of thumb before we start, always keep an eye at the ISO you're using for each and every shot, and then we will see case by case what choices did we make, what settings we did use. So let's start. First and foremost, you need to go around and to be very lean, and so due to my downsizing I moved to one lens solely. As you might have guessed, I'm really going around with just my camera on my neck and the tripod on my shoulder, and that's all I need for night photography. Of course you will need a fully charged battery. If you have a second spare battery, bring it with you as well, because long exposures tend to suck all the juice out of your batteries, so a second spare one is always a very good thing to have. Then what to say, we're starting close to sun setting. I know that you are all romantic, you all love these orange and pink skies, but that's an error. So try to keep the color as real as possible. The color balance in your camera will be set to work on an 18% level of gray, give or take, according to the camera and the brands that you're using. So that's a good reference. And so try to keep the colors as real as possible. In this very case, the sun was setting. I was not shooting directly into the sun, so this is why the sky is blue. Another easy trick here, if you have the sun behind your shoulders or to the side, the sky will be blue, while if you are shooting toward the sun, it will be close to white color. So always have the sun at least aside, if not behind yourself, if you want that very deep blue color in your pictures. And so when you are practicing with the sunset light, which is called golden hour, it gives that nice mood to everything, but pay a lot of attention, because if the sunlight is hitting your subject might end up being orange, and that is not a true real color, so that will affect the whole picture. So try to stick to real colors, knowing that maybe in post you will have to go down with saturation a bit. So this is a very good example. I was close to the beach and people just go there and gather and spend time waiting for the sunset, because we are so lucky we have wide horizons here in Vancouver, so that's a good way to end the day. As you can see, I kept the colors as real as possible. We have a boat passing by, we have a bridge, this is an interesting scene that I saw, and there were people with lights. They were having a shooting at the golden hour on the beach. And then I moved again. I use an e-bike, as most of people in Vancouver tend to use an e-bike as a main mean of transportation. So with that one, I'm very fast and I can change location. Then I moved again towards the beach volley field, which is also a restricted area of the parking where skaters can practice. And then if you are from BC, you might know the barge that has become very famous. It got stuck there with low tide like months ago, and now it's there to last apparently. So, but here again, that's a good example for you to witness the colors, because despite the golden hour tends to make everything more orange, I tried to keep the green greens, the blue blues as much as possible. So in order to avoid disappointment when you're shooting pictures like this one I'm showing you right now, please be aware that doesn't matter what camera or what brand of camera, what model you purchased and how good that sensor might be, the dynamic range you are perceiving with your eyes is way wider than what your camera perceives. So the scene that you find so interesting, it will not be as interesting once you see the picture you have taken. So just be aware of that. So in the city you will see the lights on already, but you still have a clear sky, so this makes it so special. Now moving forward, I'm entering Stanley Park here right now, so I'm looking at the cityscape. From the park I'm watching downtown. The buildings are now in the shade, but the sky still shows daylight. You have some color painting this huge cloud, and now the first dilemma. Do you want to freeze the scene or do you want to have a long exposure shot? Of course, there is no scene to be frozen here because nothing is happening. You are just shooting landscape, cityscapes, pictures, so a long shot would be the most natural choice. It's still daylight. If you want to have a long exposure, you have to mount an ND filter, and here I use my ND1000, which by definition blocks 10 f-stops of light, and so I was able to have a long exposure for like 30 seconds, and as a result of the long exposure and of the use of the ND filter, the colors are way deeper than what I obtained shooting the same picture with a fast shutter speed. The next couple of examples are at the same location in Stanley Park, and I wanted to show them to you because at that moment of the day you need additional light if you want to shoot something that is happening. This is because once again your eyes will perceive the sunlight, so everything looks bright to you, but not in the camera. So in the camera everything will be more or less darker. Once again, I'm shooting a cityscape. There are just a couple of people passing by, nothing special is happening, but you won't have enough light hitting those people to make them your main subjects. And now we're going back to the city, downtown. We will have a dedicated session about street photography overnight. So night photography, street photography will be a dedicated session in the next few days, so stay tuned, and if you didn't do it yet, please subscribe to the channel so you won't miss that. Here only the colors of that building and of that car passing by caught my attention, but that building had nice colors that were matching that car. This is so random. I like when things like that happen because it's just a memory that I take home with me. And then I was riding my e-bike again and moved to the Olympic Village. That round building that you see is the Science World and used to be the Expo. I like that part of the city, first because I lived there for many years, but secondly because the lights reflected over water from Science World and from the stadium are so typical of Vancouver. You might have seen it. Just Google Vancouver, Falls Creek, and you will find plenty of pictures. And this is all what my students want to shoot. They want to have their own interpretation of that part of the city. So this is Science World. The lights are already on, but you still have some help from the sunlight. And that means that you are able to have faster shutter speed, and you don't have to boost that much the ISO because we are not using our tripod yet. And so here the IBIS that I have in my camera helps a lot. Another thing to consider when you are shooting for reflection is that if you are having boats or anything that is floating, like in this case, either you have a fast shutter speed or the water needs to be very still. Now we have a couple of examples when I had a fast shutter speed first and then a long shutter speed, and as you can see in the second shot the water is very smooth but the boat is blurred because there was someone on that boat, so the boat was floating and moving and was not very still, and so all the other elements in the picture are still than the boat, and that kinda disturbed me. So something like this is happening, you want to reframe your picture or to change your point of view so you don't have that blurred element in your frame. Here I'm not just using leading lines, but I'm adding some reflections coming from the metal to the reflections I'm having over water. And so I changed my point of view again to have the reflections of the light coming from the stadium. Couple of things to discuss here. If you're going for a long shutter speed, like in this case, then everything is smooth. Now, I didn't have any bouncing boats, so everything is well defined. I don't have any blurred element in my picture, but since I used a long shutter speed, I was not able to see the true color of the stadium. This is because the crown of the stadium changes color every now and then, and so if you are mixing colors, the thing that you're doing with a long exposure, they will sum up and become a white light. So this is another thing you have to take into consideration if you have lights that change color, like in this case. A different point of view also for science world. Now, it's not yet really night, because otherwise we would have had a very dark sky and we could not see the mountains in the background over there. This is my favorite time of the day, because the mood this light gives to the pictures is something special. I prefer it way more than the golden hour and way more than overnight shots. This moment of the day tend to go away very quickly, so plan in advance if you want to use this kind of light for your shots. You need to be ready and to be there at that very moment. These pictures were taken on Friday night, and this kind of light, that moment of the day, the color of the sky, add that certain something to the shots. This shot to me is a no-go, because despite we have some movement in the water given by the False Creek ferry that passed by, the same ferry also created some waves, and so the boat in the background is now blurred. So I was just there looking for an inspiration when I witnessed this guy passing by with his little boat, and he was paddling and he had his dog with him. So that was the perfect cherry on top to end the tour. On my way home, I wanted to use the IBIS for another last shot, because I saw that they fixed the lights in this panel. The thing says, should I be worried? I never got it, I never understood why it's there, but then that part is not very accessible, because we have the bush and then the water, so we cannot mount a tripod. Also because I'm using a 28mm lens, so I really need to be close to it if I want to take a nice picture. So I boosted a bit the ISO, and I relied on the IBIS in my camera, and I think that the end result is satisfying to me. And here again, be very careful of what you're doing in post, because if you boost the exposure too much, then of course you will have a brighter rest of the frame, but you will not be able to read "Should I be worried?" With that, I hope that you got some value out of the few examples that we discussed together today. Remember to like the video, to share it on your social media, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the new videos to come, and I guess I will see you later. Thank you. Bye.